Hello, my name is Owen. Today I'll be doing a quick review of Daphne du Maurier's Jamaica Inn. What I want to do is give a brief overview of the book's about, tell you the things that I liked, and tell you the things that I didn't like. Jumping straight into it, this book follows Mary, whose mother passes away, and she goes to live with her aunt at the Jamaica Inn. However, her aunt isn't how she remembers her to be, as like a carefree and happy woman, because she married a horrible, despicable man who is an abuser and a criminal, just overall up to no good and the worst. So basically, she has to like survive her new living arrangement because she doesn't want to leave and abandon her aunt to this horrible man. And also on the side plot, like uncover like what exactly he does, because everyone has a suspicion that he's a criminal, and she figures that out pretty quickly. But what exactly he does is a little bit more of a mystery. So this is kind of like a mystery, like mostly a thriller book. But like Rebecca, the other book of hers that I read, it's also like a side plot of romance on the side, but it's a thriller novel up front. Going things that I liked, I will say this might not be as good of a book as Rebecca, like overall, but I will say that I enjoyed it just as much. And the main plus for this book is the protagonist of Mary is so satisfying to read. And it's not because she's like incredible, she's smart, or has like a great talent, but her thought process is so clear and makes so much sense. It's like when you read stories like this where it's like suspense and mystery, there's always like the protagonist who just makes like the dumbest decisions that make you want to like throw the book across the room. But every decision Mary makes it is measured and it makes sense. And even if I wouldn't necessarily do that, her thought process is like, okay, you know what? That does make sense, Mary. You know what? I'm sorry. You're right. I'm wrong. It's kind of one of those situations. And there were a couple moments where she was contemplating decisions that I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever. But then she'd be like, but no, that's kind of the dumbest thing ever. And I'm just like irrationally thinking that because this. I'm like, wait a minute. Did the Maurier create a protagonist that thinks very clearly about what they're doing and knows when they're being irrational and sometimes acts irrationally, but is able to like justify it with like their surrounding circumstances? It's unheard of in books, and this is like a nearly perfectly written protagonist, not because she's entirely like the most interesting character I've ever read, but just because she just makes so much sense. And I could just read an entire series about this character just living her life, because it's just like a normal person in the most satisfying, interesting way to read it. And I know that doesn't make any sense, but I just found it in a book about suspense, and there's danger and there's mystery. It was a great protagonist to have, someone that's like very level-headed and just seems normal. So I really liked Mary in this book. She was by far my favorite character and the best equipped type of person to handle the crap that gets thrown at her throughout this book. I will say, going into things that I didn't like, I did in my head predict where the twist was going, not because like the plot gave it away, but just because like, I mean, I guess it kind of did give it away, because it was like presenting information as one thing, like really hard. And I guess there was like some foreshadowing that I like subconsciously picked up, but I'm like, you're presenting this narrative very strictly, so that I think like, I don't even know if there is a twist, but if there is a twist, it would be this, and then it was that. But it's one of those books where knowing the twist doesn't lessen the book, because like every good book with the twist is not built on top of the twist. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a cherry on top. Like a good twist is like, oh, makes a good book even better. It doesn't like make a book good. So it didn't really bother me that I was right with the twist, because I was still interested to see how it played out. And I think it played out in an interesting way. And in terms of like the romance, I wouldn't say like I'm super into romance novels like to begin with. But like I said, like with this romance plot and like her like slowly like falling for the person that she falls for, I could see where she was coming from. Just like the way that du Maurier wrote the love interest, like the way that they spoke and the way that they acted. I'm like, you know what? I could see it. And it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel cheesy. It's not one of those things where it's like they meet and they're immediately like, let's marry each other. Like, no, like a series of time passes and the relationship develops naturally. And it felt all right to me. And like I said, like that as a background was very nice to like the main thriller, like kind of mystery, but like suspense up front. It's like the perfect way to package like a romance story like that. And it was great. And it wasn't like a mind-blowing plot. It wasn't like super complex. It was fairly simple. And honestly, not too much happens, like if you were to write it all down on a list. But it's all good stuff. And it's just so solidly written that I can't help but like recommend this book. So Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. I definitely recommend it. That's 2 out of 2 for her. Rebecca, Jamaica Inn. I loved them both. I will continue reading all of her books. It was amazing. Check it out. Thank you so much.